Okay, next up, last on the bill, we have Tom Sturge, who's the co-founder at Unconventional Business. He's going to be talking to us a bit about mentoring. So over to you, Tom.
That's a misnomer. We're talking about going beyond mentoring. What happens after mentoring? So it's tangential, but not 100% the same thing. Okay, so just to give you a bit of a background on me, I've been in the industry for 25 years. I've worked from being an engineer all the way up to executive, and now I've transitioned to working as a part of an agency to help with business manage their culture, improve their culture, talent retention, and being attractive for new talent. I also help with coaching individuals, aspiring leaders, as well as standing executives, and also have a legal advocacy part of the business, which helps people who have been wronged or need help navigating workplace issues. So that's a little bit of context of who I am. And now as I said, we're going to talk about the missing piece in your mentoring approach. And what does that mean? What is the missing piece? So have a think about the best advice you've ever received. Really picture it. Who gave it to you? When? And now I want you to think about the most important career opportunity you ever had. The promotion, the project, the connection that changed everything. Here's what I've discovered over 25 years in engineering leadership. Those two moments rarely come from the same person. And that gap, that's where careers get stuck. 68% of men and women don't have sponsors. Yet research from a Harvard Business Review shows that having a sponsor dramatically boosts your ability to get raises, promotions, and career satisfaction. As you can see on the screen, there's a QR code. So you guys can, if you want, you can snap the QR code and go to the source that I've got that attribution from. Just so you know, I'm not pulling these numbers out of the thin air. They actually are substantiated. The research, which studied nearly 4,000 professionals in large corporations, found that sponsorship impacts virtually every aspect of an employee's career. Yet the vast majority of us don't have sponsors. We have mentors, we have advisors, we have coaches, but not sponsors who put their reputation on the line for our advancement. So I want to step you through a hypothetical. Two individuals. You got Sarah, you've got James. Sarah is a brilliant engineer. 3 years of exemplary performance reviews. Her mentor meets with her once a month, provides excellent guidance on skill development, helped her navigate office politics, and Sarah implemented every piece of advice perfectly. 2 years later, Sarah was in the exact same role. Meanwhile, her colleague, James, who has similar skills, similar performance, yet had been promoted twice. The difference? James had a sponsor who put him forward for stretch assignments, recommended him for innovation task forces, and advocated for him in talent review meetings that Sarah didn't even know existed. And this isn't so much hypothetical. I've seen this happen many times, which exemplifies this exact problem, that you can have the greatest advice, but if you aren't being put forward for the right opportunities, the advice goes unutilized. And there's also the secondary aspect here, which is diversity, that often, even if I swap the names around, if it was James who was getting the good mentoring and Sarah getting the good sponsorship, you'd still come out with the same outcome. So what is the fundamental truth here and what we need to confront? Advice without access to opportunity is just well-intentioned theory. It's like having a detailed map, but no transportation. It's like we know exactly where we need to go, but we can't get there. And here's the thing. It isn't just about replacing mentoring. It's about going beyond, evolving our approach, adding that missing piece. It's about recognizing that today's workplace, knowing what to do isn't enough. You need to know someone who will open doors, not just point to them, which is what mentoring is. It gives you the tools, gives you the direction, but it doesn't help you get to that destination. This is something called the visibility gap. Research tells us that men are 46% more likely to sponsor than women. People of color are 65% less likely to have sponsors at all compared to their white peers. And that is, again, attributed in that link in that QR code if you want to go and look further into this. This goes into the diversity aspect, which is something else that's very strong in what I do and what I offer to organizations, not just helping the typical employee demographic, but trying to go beyond and trying to add inclusivity and diversity. And that is where this invisibility gap comes into it. But this invisibility gap isn't just a diversity and inclusion problem. It's also about general visibility. As I said, it's not about what you know, it's about who knows what you know. And there's often the cliche of it's not what you know, it's who you know. But I'm saying it goes beyond that. It's who knows what you know. But that's where networking comes into it. So let's break it down to the brass tacks. What is mentoring? Well, mentoring is traditionally a responsive interaction. You help when asked. It's a private conversation. The conversations happen usually one-to-one, behind closed doors, and it's risk-free. Your reputation isn't on the line when you give advice. These aren't weaknesses; these are features of mentoring. But they're also why it's also why mentoring alone doesn't create career advancement. What I mean by that is giving good advice is great. Helping people build skills is amazing. But mentoring doesn't help the individual who is receiving the mentoring know how to apply. It's the theory without the practice. That's where sponsorship comes in. It's proactive, it's public, but it has reputation risk. Sponsorship is completely different. You identify the opportunities and you put people forward before they ask. It's public, and you advocate in rooms where decisions are made. You advocate for these individuals when they aren't present in the room, but you also try and encourage those individuals to be included in meetings and in projects that they normally wouldn't have the opportunity to. But the crucial part here is that it does introduce risk to your reputation. If you sponsor someone who isn't ready for that sponsorship, then you have to have better due diligence and kind of know their thirst, know their hunger, and give them the opportunities where they deserve. Because the idea of sponsorship has to be taken with care and caution. So to give you an example, if you're in a meeting and someone brings up a new project, you can say something like, I know an individual who would be really good for that role, say a designer, if you've got a really good designer that is looking for new work or looking for new challenges, or an engineer who is a junior but has been has achieved good performance reviews, then you can push them forward to something a little bit more senior in a new project or a new initiative. Or someone is a project manager and they're looking for a new, more challenging aspect, then you can encourage them or introduce them to a new project that's being defined as someone who could manage that project. So the real aspect here is that the skin in the game, that is you risking your reputation, is what makes sponsorship so powerful and scary, and why so few people actually do it. That last point is the crucial point where it comes to people going far enough to allow people the opportunity, is that you have to really have the value to provide that. What we often hear is people saying, well, I don't have power. I don't have the ability to sponsor because I'm not an executive. I'm not a leader. I'm just just an average employee. Well, if you have been ever invited to a meeting you have the power to bring someone with you. If you've ever been asked for a recommendation, you have the influence. If you know about an opportunity before it's publicly posted, you can open doors to other individuals. You can bring them into those conversations. Let's make this real. What I want you to do is think of one person in your professional sphere who has the talent but lacks the visibility. And I'm sure we can all think of 2, 3 individuals who we know is super talented but doesn't seem to quite get the break. Think of someone who has the capabilities that exceed their current role. Someone with the right opportunity who could absolutely excel. That's the person that could potentially use your sponsorship to open those doors. And think back to in the past when you felt like you could do a job as a role that was perfect for you, or there was an opportunity inside a business that you worked in that you could have done really well, but it ended up going for someone else who you didn't think probably was as good as you could have been. Be that person that could have given you that opportunity. That is often what mentoring is, and that is where sponsorship goes even further. You are being the person that you wanted or needed when you were in their stage of their career. You're paying it forward or paying it back. So here comes our first poll, and I hope Nick has got it ready in the background just to get a gauge of the audience. So what I want you to do is think about how many talented people in your organization are invisible to decision makers. And I want you all to try and be honest with this and have a little think and consider how many people you can think of off the top of your head who could do with going beyond. I'm going to give a little pause for everyone to have a think and to post. Okay, we're starting to get some answers in. It's nice to see that someone is working somewhere where all talent is getting noticed. That's really nice to see. It's not often I get to see that answer. Oh, okay. If you don't know where the poll is, it's over on the right-hand side. It's the icon with the bars, the bar graph. Okay, well, we've got an even split, which is unusual. Yeah, okay. So what I often see when I ask this question is that the average answer and above is 3 to 5 people. Most people can think of at least 3, if not more, people in their organization who has the unused, untapped talent. And that is a problem in the industry, in our industry, in the organizations, everywhere. If you've got the talent that is being unutilized, then that's wasted talent. And we all have our the responsibility to try and enhance that and try and empower that. So, what we just revealed is what I like to call the invisibility gap, as we have previously talked about in the beginning. There's a pool of talent, and there's a pool of very resourceful and capable people in organizations across the world, anywhere you want to think of. And how do those people get identified? They're not lacking capability, they're lacking sponsors and opportunities. Here's an exercise I want you to do after this session, and it only takes 5 minutes. Write down the name of one invisible talent and list 3 opportunities that you can think of and different meetings that maybe you could bring them up and advocate for them to help in delivering the next project, the next task, or join a new team that you can recommend them for. Put it in your calendar tomorrow morning. Visibility mapping for 5 minutes. This is where emotional intelligence becomes strategic action. And it's all well and good the last few hours that we sat here and we've listened to theory and we've listened to other actionable takeaways. But I want you to actually commit to tomorrow spending 5 minutes just to write down a quick name and 3 opportunities that person can be leveraged. And that is really where we can make a difference. But first of all, though, before you sponsor anyone, you need to ask yourself 3 questions. And I've alluded to this in some of the previous slides. And these 3 questions are really important. First, can you see them succeeding in a role 2 levels up? Not 1, 2. Because sponsorship is about trajectory, not incremental steps. Second, are they hungry for opportunity, or are they just unhappy in their current situation? And this is where the risk aversion kind of happens, where you can gauge your risk on whether you should become a sponsor for this individual or not. There's a difference between someone ready to grow and someone looking for escape. Someone might be unhappy because they don't like the makeup of the company, they don't like the targets, they don't like the leadership. Those sometimes can be the people who need the most sponsorship because they are there, ready to go talent, wanting to find their place in the organization. However, those individuals could also be the highest risk because you could put yourself out there for the next project and the next role and whatever you can think of, and they may end up becoming a flight risk. So you need to do that second step. That's really important. And third, and this is really important about sponsorship, is that will they pay it forward? Because studies show that people who are sponsored, the sponsees, often are more likely to become sponsors themselves. And we need to make this a self-sustaining system, or at least try and achieve that pay it forward mentality, because the best sponsorship creates the multiplier effect. Now, as I said, we need to start small because this is a big thing. This is a big change and a fundamental shift, and there's that risk. You've got to always think about that risk. So let's start small. You don't have to start by sponsoring someone to the CEO or push them forward to a really big next challenge. You can start small. Invite them to present part of your presentation if you are looking to pitch a new task or a new project within the organization. Recommend them for cross-functional project teams. Include them so that they can be involved in another project that maybe is outside their current role or current type of role or what they currently do. Or include them in strategic planning sessions. Just bring them along, and if you're invited to a planning session, invite them along to come and be involved in the process so they can see how your role in a different team is applied and what that other team is working on. Small acts of sponsorship build 2 things: their visibility, the individual's visibility, and their confidence in the practice. Because as I said, mentorship is great for learning the theory. Now we need to figure out how we can give them the practical. And this is where it helps including them into other conversations in other projects. So talking about practical application of being a sponsor, I was working with an aspiring leader who decided to try sponsorship many months ago, and they started with every Wednesday. They did one thing, one action per week every Wednesday, and they identified one opportunity, a meeting, a project, or a connection, and put someone forward for it. Just on Wednesdays, just one action. Often that was just introducing them to someone on LinkedIn, creating a message group so that they could be introduced and given an opportunity to talk to these individuals who could give them other opportunities. Because being a sponsor isn't just about everything being on your shoulders. It's about introducing other people, the sponsee, to other people who can also help them and also give them opportunities, open those doors. Within 6 months of this leader doing this one action a week, 3 of the sponsored employees had been given promotions. But here's the interesting twist to this, and the reason why this is also useful for individuals and not just about risk. But being a sponsor also makes you look more capable, more of a leader, because you're willing to risk that reputation. And this individual also got a promotion. Organizations notice leaders who develop talents, who advance people within the organization, because that shows that you are looking to empower and to grow and scale the team. It's a network effect. When you sponsor someone effectively, something interesting happens. They become more likely to be sponsors, as I said previously. So it's almost like a pyramid. I don't want to say a Ponzi scheme because that's completely different, but that word did just pop into my head. You are the sponsor. You sponsor, say, one or two people. Those one or two people then sponsor another one or two people, and one or two, and then we get that pay forward movement. You're not just changing one career. In being a sponsor for one or two people, you end up creating dozens of impacts across multiple people's careers. So what's stopping you? And this is where poll 2 comes in. And this is where I want you to be self-reflective. And I want you to think about why you are being held back from going further and representing people in meetings and sponsoring. So I'm going to pause for a little while for this second poll. Yeah, I see already one person has already said about not being senior enough. Yeah, it goes back to the early part of my presentation about it's not about seniority. Yeah. Okay. I'm pleased to hear that someone hasn't thought about it before today. I hope my presentation will help you think going forward. Okay, yeah. We're starting to see quite a clear picture that the seniority is the blocker here, the perception of seniority. That's great. So here is the breakthrough moment for you. If you don't feel senior enough, remember, you just need to be one step ahead of the individual you're sponsoring. So it could be a junior. It could be if you're a team lead, recommend a senior to do something a little bit above their capability, or not above their capability, but above their station, above their role, their definition of their job. If you don't know who to sponsor, look for hunger. Look for people who are talented, but they are wanting more. They're wanting to go that extra step. They're wanting the next responsibility. If you're worried about reputation, start small. Make the opportunity low risk. Look for those opportunities where you can just introduce someone. Say you've got your coworker who needs someone to help them with a side project, or needs to help them with understanding, I don't know, something like mobile responsiveness, or being more capable as a emotional intelligence. Find someone on LinkedIn that's in your network, and you can recommend them. You can link them up. That is still being a sponsor, because you're going and putting a little bit of yourself on the line to introduce this individual. If you don't have time, one action per month is enough to start. And that one action could be 5 minutes. As I said, you could do something as small as introducing, and that takes 5 minutes to send off a quick email saying, I want you to meet Steph. She's really great at this and that, but she's looking to find someone to help her with going over this new area or this new subject. And I know you're really good at this, so I want to introduce you. And that could be something like speaking. So a lot of confidence really comes from sharing and giving back to the community. So that could be introducing them to someone who's really good at public speaking. So you introduce them, and then hopefully that then motivates them to being confident enough to go up and talk in front of individuals. If you've never thought about doing it, and there was one individual at least who said they never thought about doing it before today, well, now is your awakening. Now is your opportunity to take this concept and take this ideal and go forward. The question isn't whether you're ready, it's whether someone needs what you can offer. That's what sponsorship is about. There are people, as we identified, there are at least 3 people that each of you can think of, if not more, that you go ahead and give these opportunities to, open those doors to. So today, this week, I want you to recommend someone for something specific, a project, a committee, a speaking opportunity. Put their name forward with your credibility behind it. Drop it in a Slack message, mention it in a team meeting, send that email. You'll feel good for doing it. Those individuals will think you're amazing for doing it. And that is what we're here for. We're here to give people opportunities, tap into that talent, and give everyone that push and that leg up that we maybe lacked. This week, so we're looking singular day, and now I'm looking at a week's scope. And I want you to think about 3 opportunities you can give that person, or give another person if you want to diversify and have more than one person who you're sponsoring. But I want you to think of those, do that task that I said to put in your calendar, the 3 opportunities, the meeting and the various other opportunities. Write that down. Write down that person's name. Write down the 3 opportunities. And then this month, within the next 30 days, 4 weeks, I want you to advocate for someone in a meeting where discussions were made about opportunities. Be the voice that says, have we considered this person for this role? Be the person who changes a trajectory. Now let's go broader. Let's talk about quarter, next 3 months. Track what happens, not the metrics, but for learning. What worked? What didn't work? How did the person respond? What opened up as a result? Because here's what I've learned. Once you see the impact of real sponsorship, once you watch someone's career transform because you opened a door, you'll never go back to just giving advice. So the question is, and I want you to leave with this one question. And this question will change how you think about development, leadership, and organizational success. Are you sharing your wisdom, or are you sharing your power? Because in today's workplace, wisdom without power is philosophy. Power without wisdom is dangerous. But when you combine them, when you use your influence to create opportunities while providing the support to succeed, that's when careers transform. So, what I want to leave you with is share your power. The missing piece in your mentoring approach isn't better advice. It's not mere frequent meetings or better frameworks. The missing piece is your willingness to put your reputation on the line for someone else's potential, to move from advisor to advocate, to share not just what you know, but who you know and what you can influence. That person you thought of earlier, they're waiting, not for more advice, but for someone to believe in them enough to open a door. Be that person, starting today. Now, having said all that, there are 2 other things I want to recommend for you, and that's two books. One gives you the fundamentals of mentoring, and this is something I've recommended to many people, and this is the mentoring manual. And again, there's a QR code on the screen there that should take you to a really good place to buy this book for a really good price. I've also got it here. And it gives you the basic and the foundation of mentoring, which is essential. Everyone should be equipped with all the right frameworks and all the ways to approach how to make people better at their role. And as you go up the leadership scale, you need to be better and better at mentoring, because it's really important to help provide those individuals with the skill sets and the abilities to be high performers and to be capable. But beyond that, there's a new book that came out only a few months ago, and it is The Doors You Can Open. And this book goes to the point of sponsorship and why it's good, the ways you can find the opportunities and how to mitigate risk and many other things. And it's a really good book. It's a little bit pricey because it's brand new. It's hardback. You can get it in Kindle. It's about £10 on Kindle, which is a little bit expensive. But there's also an audiobook if you're better at audiobooks. That's it's one credit, as is every audiobook. But these 2 books in unison together, they will be an amazing toolkit for you to go and give those opportunities to those individuals. So I want to say thank you and share your power. Thank you very much.
That's brilliant. Thank you. Very thought-provoking there, Tom. Really good. Appreciate it. Okay, we do have a couple of questions. Let's start by this one from Michelle. Okay, it's coming up on screen. The visibility gap and sponsorship are things I have seen so often. I've heard the phrase that women are over-mentored and under-sponsored. Yes, totally agree with that. The actual question is cut off, unfortunately, but it's what do you think is the key thing that can change this?
So going back to what I said in the presentation, there's a few things you can do. You can bring them up in conversation when you're in a room where they aren't, so you can represent them and be an advocate for them. This is also something I do as part of my volunteering effort. I work with the WPN, and I'm a male advocate over there. And it's all about just being vocal, being loud. And you can even do this sponsorship not only in rooms they're not in, but you could also do it in meetings that they are in. But often women are underrepresented in meetings that they are present in. And just giving them an opportunity to have their say and have their voice, bringing up the quiet individuals, which is often women, because they don't feel like they have a space or the authority to be able to give their opinions and their thoughts. So being able to ask, again, using the same name, Sarah, have you got any insight or any ideas here? There's a slight caveat there, though. You need to kind of prepare them for that eventuality. You don't want to just spring it on them and they're like, well, you got to make sure that you are asking them, do you want me to help you out and kind of give you the stage if you aren't often given it, or say to them, this meeting that's coming up, I think you're really good at this and I think you'd be superb for giving some input and opinions here. And they often, in my experience, have said, oh, but I don't feel like I've, imposter syndrome and that kind of thing. So asking them beforehand to get the consent to then say, well, what I'm going to do is in this meeting in 10 minutes time, I'm going to, if no one's asked you for your opinion, I'm going to bring you forward to give your opinion. And that is, as I said, one of the small steps to sponsorship is to just give someone the voice, give someone the platform. I hope that answered the question.
I think it does. Yeah, I think one of the points from that is that it's an incremental process. It doesn't have to be
exactly
a big kind of load of stuff that you suddenly put on someone that you're sponsoring. But
because it's risky for them as well as much it is for you. You've got to have to try and find the happy medium to pushing forward but not throw them off the ledge.
Yeah, absolutely. Okie dokie. We'll do one more. This is an interesting one. So we spoke about imagining that people were 2 levels up rather than 1 level up. But are they capable to perform the role? Does it mean potential to perform or ready to perform now?
It's a really interesting question. So the 2 levels is my way of thinking about the person's ability and their hunger to do the role. It's not so much that you're going to recommend them for that 2 step forwards. You're just figuring out if they are capable. So it's a balancing act between, are they capable or could they be capable?
Mm-hmm.
And I like to think of it more of could they be capable, and do they have the hunger or the drive or the motivation to find that capability within them?
Yeah, I see. Yeah. Brilliant. Okay, I think that is us, Tom. Thank you very much indeed.
Okay. Thank you very much.